Okay, so for this particular unit, I'm not going to do any really long lectures because it's mostly rubrics. But I would just like to do a few brief videos explaining some of the more complicated things that people struggle with when they are putting together the rubrics in the homework, and more importantly, when they are on Kleros actually doing the services. And excuse me, and so the first of these more complicated aspects is the issue of the Theotokia and the various appendices that are available in the Menaion. So that is going to be the subject of this particular video. So if we take a look at, if we begin with the simplest case, and we take a look at a simple service in the Menaion. So this is a service that in the Menaion is going to have 3 stichira and perhaps a troparion and a canon. So let me show you an example of this, and I will show you first in Slavonic, and then I will show you in English as well. But they're going to correspond, the Slavonic and the English. So let's open up here. Okay, so now why does it do that? Trying to here we go. Okay, share. There we go. So now hopefully you can see this. So this is the March volume of the Slavonic Menaion, and this is the green Menaion. Remember, but both the green Menaion and the brown Menaion are going to be the same in this regard. So here's a simple service. This is the service for Saint Eudoxia on the 1st of March. And you see here we have 1, 2, 3 stichira. Okay, we have a troparion, and we have a canon. So at Lord I have cried. Okay, this is a bit more complicated because there's the triodion going on there, but let's abstract away from the triodion, not worry about that, and assume that this is going on outside of Great Lent. Then at Lord I have cried, we're going to have 3 stichira on a weekday, right? 3 stichira from the Ektoios, and then these 3 stichira from the Menaion. So we always need to conclude with a Theotokia. So in the case of a simple service, that's actually very simple. You will have glory both now Bogorodice Theotokian or Starotheotokian. And this Theotokian and the Starotheotokian are in the same tone and melody as the stichira here. And they're given to you right there for the in the Menaion, right there following the stichira at Lord I've cried. So the Theotokian, this first text, is going to be chanted on Sunday evening and Monday evening and Wednesday evening. And the Starotheotokian is going to be chanted on Tuesday evening and Thursday evening. In other words, on the eve of Wednesday and Friday. Okay, so again, the Starotheotokian is going to be used on the eve of Wednesday and Friday. The Theotokian is going to be used in all other cases on the eves of Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. We're not worrying here right now about the Saturday case and the Sunday case because those are going to take a different Theotokian. So this is the simplest case. So the same thing we see in the brown Menaion is going to have the same thing. Okay, so this is the brown Menaion also for March. And here we have, oh, I think you can't, right, okay. So here we have the 3 stichira, and then it has glory now Theotokian or the Starotheotokian. So same thing, okay? So that's that. So the English is organized the same exact way. So if we take a look at the English, so here's the service for Eudoxia in the English. And here at Vespers, we've got the 3 stichira at Lord I've cried, glory now and ever Theotokian in the same tone and melody, Starotheotokian in the same melody. So these 2 texts are here. Okay. So this is the simplest case. the case of a simple service or unranked service on a weekday. Now let us suppose that the service is not a simple service, but a hexastikereric or sixtikira service. The Slavonic is šestirična služba. For a sixtikira service, there's going to be sixtikira at Lord I've cried, obviously, hence the name sixtikira. But the other characteristic feature of a sixtikira service will be the presence of a doxastikon at Lord I've cried. Doxastikon is a stikira that's sung at glory. Yeah, the Greek word for glory is doxa, hence the name doxastikon. So let me show you an example here from the July volume of the Menaion. Share that with you. Okay, so this is the July volume of the Menaion. So if we take a look here at service for Saints Cosmas and Damian on the 1st of July, there's going to be 3 stikira, and then another 3 stikira, glory, a doxastikon. The doxastikon is most often in a different tone than the tone of the stikira. And then it says at both now Theotokian or Starotheotokian, and it prints for you the Starotheotokian, but it does not print the Theotokian. The English has the same thing. The English has the same thing. So let's take a look at the English. So, oh, I'll get her there. July, right? Cosmas and Damian. So you got 3 stikira, another 3 stikira, glory, the doxastikon, now never Theotokian or this Starotheotokian, and then it gives you the Starotheotokian. But it does not give you the Theotokian. So where do you find the Theotokian, and why is it like that? So to find the Theotokian, you have to go to the appendices in the Menaion. The Menaion has 4 appendices, okay? And we have to open up, in this particular case, Appendix 2. So let me show you Appendix 2 of the Menaion. So in the back of the Menaion, so this is it would be nice if somebody could put bookmarks in these PDF files. You don't have to scroll, you could just navigate based on the bookmarks. Okay, here we go. Here is Appendix 1. This contains the resurrectional Theotokia. This is not what you need. Next is Appendix 2. This is what we need right now. The Theotokia and the A-tones that are sung whenever there is glory for a saint in the Menaion, both now, this in the tone. So you go into Appendix 2. So this is, again, a 6 stikira service. You go into Appendix 2, and remember that the doxastikon that we had up there was in tone 6. So we have to find the section of Theotokian Appendix 2 in the tone of the doxastikon. In this particular case, in tone 6. Okay. And then they're organized by day. So Sunday evening, Monday morning, Monday evening, Tuesday morning, and so forth, by day of the week. There's a different Theotokian. So let's suppose that the Feast of Saints Cosmas and Damian, July 1st, fell on Monday. This would mean that we're serving Vespers on Sunday evening, so we would take this first Theotokian. Okay. So let's do the same exercise now in English. Same exercise, but in English. So take a look again at the English Menaion. Here's the English Menaion. We've got 1, 2, 3 stikira, 1, 2, 3 seconds at a stikira, glory. There's a doxastikon in tone 6. Now never Theotokian or the Starotheotokian. So it doesn't give us the Theotokian. So we have to go to the appendix to the English Menaion. I've scanned the appendix in the English Menaion from the SJKP edition of the Lambertson translation. And it's also up on the Ponemar website. And this is what it looks like. Okay, the quality is bad, but I'm sorry about that. Maybe if somebody has these, there's another project if you want some extra credit. If you've got access to this JKP Menaion, if you could scan the appendices in better quality than what I've got up, that would be great, be very appreciated. So here's the common Theotokia, the resurrection of Theotokia. This is Appendix 1. This is not what you need. What you need is Appendix 2, Theotokia in the 8 tones chanted where there is a doxasticon for the saint in the Menaian. Now endeavor these Theotokia according to the tone of the doxasticon. So our doxasticon was in tone 6. And so we go in here, tone 6. And suppose it's Sunday evening, we've got that Theotokia, like the archangel with the faith for him. So it matches with the Slavonic. Yay. It should, because this is translated from the Slavonic. The Greek Menea also have appendices, but they're structured somewhat differently from the Slavonic Menea. So if you do use in English, if you serve in English and you do use that set of Menea that's translated by Holy Transfiguration Monastery in Brookline, Massachusetts, from the Greek text, the appendices in the back of those editions are not going to match the appendices in the back of these editions. I'm not going to demonstrate that for you because I assume that the majority of you are using the Slavonic-based books, and also I don't have scans of the Brookline Menea to show that to you. And the Greek way of doing this varies a little bit. This is a little bit different. Okay, so we found this Theotokian. Now, if you take a look at the Theotokia that are given here, and this is the same in the Slavonic, let's take a look at the days. So we have Sunday evening, Monday Matins. Monday Matins one is done at the Apostolic of Matins, or the praises if you have the Stichira at the praises. While the Sunday evening one is done at the end of Lord I Have Cried, and at the end of the Apostica, if you have Stichira Apostica. Okay. So if we take a look at the particular service we were working with for the Holy Unmercenaries Cosmos and Damien, you could see here that we also have Stichira at the Apostica, yeah, glory in the 6th tone. So they're going to also need a Theotokian. Now, because the tone of the doxasticon of the Apostica is 6, and the tone of the doxasticon at Lord I Have Cried is 6, they're going to take the same Theotokian from Appendix 2, which happens. I mean, it's kind of strange, but yeah, it happens. What can you do? Okay, so let me go back to the appendix here for you, and let me show you. So let's take a look at the days that are here. Sunday evening, Monday morning, Monday evening, Tuesday morning, Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, Friday evening, Saturday morning. So notice that there is no Theotokian here for Tuesday evening, right, the eve of Wednesday, and Wednesday morning. And there is no Theotokian for Thursday evening and Friday morning. And this is because on Wednesdays and Fridays, even for a 6 Stichira service, we use the Star of Theotokian. And that's why the Star of Theotokian is printed in the Menaian there for you. So let me show you that. So if we go back to our service here in the Menaian, right, we've got the 2 sets of Stichira, Glory, the Doxasticon, Now and Ever Theotokian, which it's not printed in here because we have to find it from Appendix 2, or this Star of Theotokian, and the Star of Theotokian is printed here for us. And the same thing at the Apostica, Glory, Doxasticon, Now and Ever Theotokian, which we have to find in Appendix 2, or this Star of Theotokian, and the Star of Theotokian is printed for us. Okay? So, again, 6 Stichira service on a Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, right? Meaning Sunday evening, Monday evening, or Wednesday evening. We have to take the Theotokian from Appendix 2. 6 Stichira service on a Wednesday or Friday. We use the Star of Theotokian printed in the Menaian. Okay. Now you might be asking, well, why is it like that? So let me explain to you why it's like that. And I'm not going to show you the Slavonic because the Slavonic is the same as this. Okay. So why is it like that? Well, this is why it's like that. This doxasticon here is idiomelic, meaning it has its own melody, or it had its own melody that's now been lost because we don't do Znameni chant anymore. Okay. While these Stichira here at Lord I've Cried, they're always prosomia, so they're always sung to some other melody. So the first set of Stichira is sung to the melody Joy of the Ranks of Heaven. Небесных чинов радования. The second set of stichira is sung to the melody, Thou hast given a sign, Thou is znameni. But here the doxasticon is idiomelic. The Starotheotokion is in the tone of the doxasticon. It is also prosomion, melody having set all aside, suot lashipshe. So it is also a prosomion. But the Theotokion that is going to follow an idiomelic stichiron also needs to be idiomelic, okay? An idiomelic stichiron needs to be followed by an idiomelic Theotokion. That's the logic of the typicon. And since there isn't a proliferation of these idiomelic Theotokia, they've been collected for you into an appendix, okay? And each of the Theotokia there in Appendix 2 is an idiomelic Theotokion, and they're arranged by tone and by the day of the week. If you're ever interested in how these were sung, you can find that. The music for these is printed in this book. The Aktoich Notnova Penia, the notated Aktoichos, which is a Znameni chant book published by the Holy Synod in Russia shortly before the revolution. You can see it's in Kiev in square notation. At the end of the section for each tone, it would be useful if somebody could add bookmarks to this. At the end of the section for each tone, it's got the Theotokia in Appendix 2, from Appendix 2, okay? So here they are. And there's that Theotokion that we had, that was printed in Appendix 2 in the Menaion. It's here with its music, okay? So you could sing it here. Archangelski vospoim verni, nebesny черtok, и дверь запечатану, во истину радуйся, and so forth, okay? So that's only really useful for you if you do Znameni chant, since 95% of us don't do Znameni chant. All of this idiomelic, all these idiomelic melodies have been lost, and we sing all the stichira to the melodies, the obihad melodies for the tone. So this isn't particularly relevant, but the logic is still there, and that's why Appendix 2 exists. Okay, so that is Appendix 2 for you. Now let us promote. Let us go to the next step and promote ourselves to a polyaleos rank service, okay? So this is a 6 stichira service on a weekday. Now let's suppose we have a polyaleos rank service on a weekday. If we have a polyaleos rank service on a weekday, it's going to look something like this. So let me show you an example. Here, we can go back to the English Menaion, since the vast majority of you are probably in English speakers, so we'll work with the English. Now we gotta find a polyaleos in here. This is, oh here, I know there's a good polyaleos. Oh, what? I'll go back. Sorry. Okay, back in March, there's the service for the Holy 40 Martyrs of Sebaste. Here's the service for the Holy 40 Martyrs of Sebaste, and it is a polyaleos. And at a polyaleos, there's also going to be 6 stichira at Lord I've cried. Now, sometimes the Menaion will only give us 3, and it will tell us to double them. Now here, there's some things going on with the triodion, but don't worry about that. That isn't particularly relevant to what's going on here. There's going to be a doxasticon. In this particular case, the first stichiron serves as the doxasticon, because these stichira are actually idiomelic. And then it's going to call for the dogmatic Theotokion in the tone of the doxasticon. Remember, the dogmatic Theotokion, or more properly, the primary Theotokion, is the Theotokion that is used at Lord I Have Cried at the Vespers for Saturday evening, so the Sunday Vigil, right? And so at a polyaleos, we're going to always use at Lord I Have Cried the primary Theotokion, or the dogmatic Theotokion, in the tone of this doxasticon. So this doxasticon is in tone 2, so the dogmatic Theotokion is going to be in tone 2, the shadow of the law passed away. So the same thing is going on also in the Slavonic, as is going on in the English. as is going on in the English. So let's take a look at the Slavonic for a second here, because I want to show you that this is the 9th. So this thing doesn't have bookmarks. Here it goes, the 9th, right? Okay, 40 martyrs of Sebaste. So 1, 2, 3, Stikira, Doxasticon. Okay, normally the Slavonic books will not give you the text of the dogmatic Theotokon. It just says, in linia Bogorodichen, both now Theotokon, predi sen zakonne, the shadow of the law. And you're supposed to know what that is, okay? The English books have been simplified a little bit, and sometimes it will give you the full text rather than the incipit. But here, it only gives you the incipit. So in the back of the Menaean, remember there was Appendix 1. So Appendix 1 is where you go to get the text of the primary Theotokia. So Appendix 1 has the resurrection of Theotokia. They're arranged by tone. And it has the primary Theotokon, predi sen zakonne, the shadow of the law, and the lesser Theotokon, which is the one that on Saturday evenings is used at the Apostica, or Chudicia Novoga Setrebnia Chudias, O New Wonder. So in English, you've got the same thing in the English Menaean as well. In the English Menaean, we've got the appendix, and we go to Appendix 1 to find the primary Theotokon or dogmatic Theotokon, okay? Here is our hymn, the shadow of the law passed away when grace arrived. Now, if we take a look now at the Apostica, okay, in the case of the Stikira Apostica, there could be one of two things going on. The more rare case, which is the case of March 9, okay, here at the Apostica, it's got a doxasticon, and then now and ever Theotokion, and it gives us the text of a Theotokion. O Theotokos, thou art the true vine. That's a Theotokion I'll talk about in a second as well. It's an important one. So here, the Menaean provides for us a Theotokion at the Apostica. But often, the Menaean will not provide us with a Theotokion at the Apostica. So let me see if I can find you an example. Maybe here for St. Olga, that ought to be a service with all these things here. It even has a Latia. Okay, Apostica here. Okay, so here's an example. Here's an example where we've got the Stikira Apostica, Doxasticon. This Doxasticons in tone 8, now and ever Theotokion. It gives us the Theotokos. In the English, they give you more text. They don't give you just the sentence. But I'm sure if we take a look at this in the Slavonic, it probably won't have the full hymn. It'll have the incipit. Well, anyway, if you don't have a Theotokon here at the Apostica, if it's not provided for you, or if it's just an incipit that's indicated, what this is it's the lesser Theotokon out of Appendix 1. So we can check that. If we go to Appendix 1 in the English Menaean, and this was in tone 8, you see here that text we just had, O unwedded virgin who ineffably conceived God. That is the lesser Theotokion printed in Appendix 1 of the Menaean. So let's recap, okay? Simple service. The Theotokon for Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and the Star of Theotokon for Wednesday and Friday at Lord F. Cried is printed in the Menaean for you. Sixtikira service. The Theotokon for Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, you have to get out of Appendix 2 of the Menaean in the tone of the Doxasticon for the day of the week. The Star of Theotokon for Wednesday, Friday is printed for you, both for Lord F. Cried and the Apostle. Polyeleos ranked service. At the Lord F. Cried Stikira, we use the dogmatic Theotokon, which is printed in Appendix 1. At the Apostica, there may be a Theotokon printed for us. If one is not, we use the lesser Theotokon from Appendix 1 as well. It would be the second text printed in Appendix 1 in the tone again of the Doxasticon. At the Matin service, for a simple service, there is not going to be any stikira for the saint matins. For a 6 stikira service, you may well have a doxasticon at the apostica, and perhaps even a doxasticon at the praises. So you will need to go to Appendix 2 and get the Theotokon in Appendix 2 for the in the tone of the doxasticon and the day of the week, keeping in mind that matins, even if you serve it in the evening, like in modern Russian practice, is already matins for tomorrow morning. And if it's a Wednesday or Friday, the Staro Theotokon will be printed for you. At a Polyeleos rank service, at matins, you will never have apostica. You may have stikira. You will always have stikira at the praises. If there is no Theotokon printed for you, you have to go to Appendix 2, not 1, but 2, and get the Theotokon in the tone of the doxasticon and the day of the week. Okay? And the final case that we have to work out is the case in between. This is the doxology. For a doxology service, at Lord, I have cried, we use the dogmatic Theotokon, so the Theotokon from Appendix 1. At the apostica, we use the Theotokon from Appendix 2. Okay. And at the praises, again, we use the Theotokon from Appendix 2 methods. Now, a couple of things might happen. A couple of problems might arise. One problem is this. Let us suppose that we are serving a Polyeleos rank service or a doxology on a Wednesday or Friday. And so at Lord I have cried, we used the, so let's work the doxology. At Lord I have cried, we used the dogmatic Theotokon. At the, we come to the apostica and we have to take the Theotokon from Appendix 2. So we come on over here and it's a Wednesday and we see that for Tuesday evening, there is no Theotokon here. That's because Appendix 2 is set up for 6 Tekira services, and for 6 Tekira services, we use the Staro Theotokon. But for a doxology, we never use the Staro Theotokon. And so there is no Theotokon here. You can just take some other Theotokon for some other day of the week, as long as it's in the tone of the doxasticon. You might ask, why is this so complicated? Well, this has to do with the following. The Staro Theotokon mentions the cross. And if we have a simpler 6 Tekira service, the Oktoichos is used. And so the theme in the Oktoichos for Wednesdays and Fridays is the cross. So it makes sense to use the Staro Theotokon. But starting with the doxology, the Oktoichos goes away. And so there is no longer the theme of the cross for Wednesday or Friday. So it doesn't make any sense to use the Staro Theotokon. That's why it's like this, okay? That's the all of this has a certain logic behind it. So that's the first problem that we've worked out. Okay, sometimes this happens, a lot of doxastica are in tone 6. And you may have this situation where you've got a doxasticon, like we saw with St. Cosmas and Damian, a doxasticon in tone 6 at Lord I've cried, and a doxasticon in tone 6 at the apostica. And so you have to use the same Theotokon twice. That's fine, but if you don't want to use the same Theotokon twice, one hymn that's really handy that's in tone 6, you can do this for tone 6, is the Theotokon of the third hour, O Theotokos, thou art the true vine. That can really be used as a Theotokon for Stikira, and you can stick that either at the apostica or at the praises whenever you need a Theotokon in tone 6. And to prove that I didn't make that up, okay, I can show you that in the service that we were looking at for the 9th of March, for the Holy 40 Martyrs of Sebaste, yeah, it actually prints that for you in the Menaion. Okay? At the apostica, it's got the Theotokon. Theotokos, thou art the true vine, which is budded forth for us the fruit of life. One thing that you can also do is, I know here it's printed with, pray thou, O Mistress, with the holy apostles. You can actually insert the name of the saint into there. And and I can demonstrate that to you based on some pre-Niconian books, but I'm not going to do that. You can just, if you want to, you can actually insert the name of the saint there together with the apostles. Okay? All right, so that's that. I think we've exhausted that. So there's a couple other problems that might arise that that you might have to solve. So let's take a look at these. Okay, problem number one. There are certain times when you need a Starotheo token and one is not printed for you in the Manean. So you're doing a simple service or 6-stick-era service on a Wednesday or Friday, and you need the Starotheo token. And the Manean doesn't have a Starotheo token. There are examples of services like this. Let me show you one. Let me show you an example. So here in the March Manean, you've got the service for the 42 martyrs of Amorium. Okay, I'm a little bit cheating here, but just work with me. It's got a doxasticon, okay? It's got a doxasticon in tone 2. But it doesn't have a Starotheo token that accompanies this doxasticon. The Starotheo token here is in tone 4. And so you can't use it to accompany this doxasticon. Now, I said I'm a little bit cheating because this doxasticon is only supposed to be used for Saturdays and Sundays. Okay, but that was just the simplest case since I had the March volume open. There can be other situations of a similar kind. Let me see if I can find you one. If I can find you one in here in the English. If not, we'll go to the Slavonic. Here, yes, this is going to be a good example. Okay, this is another example of something that happens. If you have a service for a double service, a service for 2 saints, there's going to be 2 sets of stichera. These are the stichera for the first saint, and these are the stichera for the second saint. Oftentimes, they might be in different tones. Here, they're in the same tone, but they've got different melodies. There's going to be a Theo token and a Starotheo token. The Theo token, Starotheo token agree with the tone and melody of the last set of stichera. Instances often arise where you have to separate those 2 saints and serve separately for the first one and the second one. That often happens when you, so if you're serving just for Venerable Hilarion, you can't use this Theo token and this Starotheo token because they're not in the same tone and melody as that set of stichera. Another example is if you've got a service that that you have to downgrade. What do I mean by that? Well, remember, for example, we talked about the general Manean for the new martyrs of Russia. Okay, so let's take a look at the general Manean for the new martyrs of Russia for a second here. And here, so you have to bear with me because this thing takes a long time to load because it's a big file. And the computer is doing it. Oh, I'm sorry, I opened the wrong thing. Oops. Sorry about that. Here we go. This is what I wanted to open. Demonstrate that. It's not the most efficient way to teach, but I'm sorry about that. Okay, here's the general Manean for the new martyrs. So, or no, this is not the general Manean for the new martyrs. Sorry, this is just the general Manean. The general Manean for the new martyrs. Too many books here. Here we go. Okay, that's the book I'm looking for. Okay. So in here, yeah, this is one that takes a long time to load. In here, These services are set up as they're set up as Paleo rank services. You just have to bear with me while this loads. The computer is doing too many things. It's recording while it's loading this big PDF while doing some other stuff. And it's loading all this from an external hard drive. So what can I do? Oh, come on. Think. Okay, here we go. Almost loaded. Okay. So here, we don't want this service. We want the service for the general service for a new martyr. So if you take a look at this service, it's set up for a Paleo. You've got 1, 2, 3 stikira, which is supposed to be double, doxasticon. And then it calls for the Theotokon, Simurnuslavam. Yeah, the dogmatic Theotokon in tone 1. But what if I don't want to do a Paleo for a new martyr? Okay, if I'm confined to the structure in here, that requires me to do a Paleo every time I want to serve for a new martyr of Russia. But maybe I don't want to do that. You know, why do I have to serve a Paleo? I could serve it as a Sextikira service or a doxology service or a simple service or whatever I want to do. So if I wanted to serve this as a Sextikira service, the problem that I've got is that I'm going to need a Theotokon or a Starotheotokon, right? So let's work through that case. If this is a Sextikira service on a weekday, I cannot use this Theotokon Simirnu-Slavu. Yeah, I've got to use the Theotokon from Appendix 2. So I just go to Appendix 2, and I think they've printed the appendices in this general Menane as well. I've got to go to Appendix 2, and I just get the Theotokon for the day of the week in the tone of this doxasticon, which is tone 1. But what if it's a Wednesday or Friday? Well, Appendix 2 does not have Starotheotopia. And in those other cases I showed you, when there are instances arise when you're doing a service and there isn't a Starotheotokon, put it in the Menane for whatever reason. Or when there is a double service and you have to split up the components of the double service and you need a Starotheotokon and the one that's in there is in the wrong tone. Okay, you have to go and find a Starotheotokon. Now, the way that the Menane supposes that you're going to do this, and the way that the calendar of the Moscow Patriarchate, the instructions of the Moscow Patriarchate puts together, says you do this, and the way that all the textbooks say you do this is you open up the Menane, right? You just open up the Menane, and you start flipping in the Menane until you find a Starotheotokon in tone 1. So this one here is in tone 4, so that is not going to work. We go to the next service, and it's again in tone 4, so that's not going to work. When we go to the next service, that's a Paleo. That's not going to work for us anyway. We go to this one here. Oh, we found one in tone 1. Okay, so that's pretty fast. Okay, partially because I've done this and I sort of know my way around the Menane. But again, this isn't going to be fast enough for you to find the Starotheotokon in between the choir finishing the doxasticon and you giving the pitch for the next thing, and the canon arc saying both now in the same tone, right? So you're going to have to prepare that ahead of time. So you're going to have to flip through the Menane until you find the Starotheotokon that you need. This doesn't happen that often, but if you do a lot of daily services, you run into this problem. Because we do a lot of daily services and we run into this problem all the time, and we do things like we downgrade services and we move things around, we separate services to do things. So we do this quite often. What I've done is I've done all this work for you basically, and we've got a book that we came out here at the Theological Academy. We came out with a little booklet that we've called Appendix 5 and 6 to the Menane. I haven't told you about Appendices 3 and 4 yet. I'll talk about that next. We've got Appendix 5 and 6 to the Menane. And what Appendix 5 and 6 are, right here, is in Appendix 5, we've arranged all of the Starotheotokia that have come out of the Menane by tone and melody. So here are the Starotheotokon Tone 1, melody небесных чинов, joy of the ranks of heaven, melody прихвальной мученицы, all lauded martyrs. So this is even if you do the подобное, if you do the melodies, then you can even get the star of Theotokon in the melody that you want. If you just do the obi hot tones and you don't do the melodies, then it doesn't really matter. Then we've got tone 2, we've got tone 3, and so forth. So the way that this booklet was put together is we went through the Minean and we copied all the star of Theotokon out of the Minean and we put them together into this appendix. So this is like the same structure as appendices 1 and 2, except this says star of Theotokon. So this becomes very handy. This is up on the website. You can download and print it. And then in appendix 6, we've arranged all of the Theotokia. Okay, these are the Theotokia that are used at the weekday simple services, right? If there isn't a doxasticon. So this is if you ever want to take a service written as a polyaleos and downgrade it to a simple service so it wouldn't have a doxasticon. Or if you're splitting a double service into single services and you need a Theotokon in the right tone. We've got this appendix 6 here that's got all of the Theotokia in the different tones arranged by tone and melody. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I only have this in Slavonic. I haven't done this in English, but somebody could well do this in English. Yeah, you just go through the Lambertson translation of the Minean and pull all the star of Theotokia out of it and put it together into a little booklet. It's very handy. Get more of an issue if you do a lot of daily services, but it could at some point come in handy, you know. And sometimes during Lent, strange things happen. And when I first started my life on Kleros, I would find myself in strange circumstances where in the middle of a service, I would suddenly need a Theotokon that wasn't there. And you have to start flipping and looking for it. And after a couple of times of that, we just decided to put together this little booklet where we've got everything there. So it's kind of handy. Okay, now let's talk about appendices 3 and 4. So appendix 1 and appendix 2 in the Slavonic Minean have the Theotokia that are used with stikira and only with stikira. Be they stikira at Lord I have cried, at the apostolic of the praises, or the apostolic of matins. These are Theotokia used only for stikira. There are further two appendices, appendix 3 and appendix 4, that are used for the troparion. The troparion that is sung at the end of Vespers, and again the troparion, the same troparion usually, that's sung at the beginning of Matins at God is the Lord, Bog Gospod, and then the troparion that's sung at the end of Matins. So let's take a look again at the simple case. So if I'm not mistaken, our simple case here was, actually let's not do Martyr Eudocia, because that's during Lent. That might be kind of strange. Let's take a look at Cosmas and Damien. It's the same for a simple service or a sixticera service. So if we have a simple service or a sixticera service, like the service for Saints Cosmas and Damien the 1st of July, at the end of Vespers, we're going to have a troparion printed there for us. Tone 8, Holy on Mercenaries and Wonder Workers Cosmas and Damien. The same troparion is going to be used also at God is the Lord at the beginning of Matins, and the same troparion is going to be used at the end of Matins, okay? But it is not printed there, right? It's only printed once in the Minean at the conclusion of Vespers. So this troparion is going to need to be followed by a Theotokion, okay? It needs to be followed by a Theotokion. And so where you get that Theotokion is appendix 4 of the Minean. So let me show you first the Slavonic for reasons that I will explain in just a second. So I'm going to open up I'm going to close out of here. I'm going to open up for you the Slavonic Minean. And here we've got the March volume of the Slavonic Minean. So I should say that all of the volumes of the Minean have the exact same appendices. Right? They're just reproduced from volume to volume. So this was appendix 1. Here's appendix 2. We are going to keep going. We're going to skip for a second appendix 3 and go to appendix 4. Bogorodichny отпустительные, the Theotokia of dismissal. According to the troparion of the saint, or after the troparion of the saint, sung throughout the year at Vespers and at God is the Lord of Matins, and again at the end of Matins. And these are again arranged for you according to tone, and then within the tone, according to day of the week. So the particular troparion that we had for Saints Cosmas and Damien was in tone 8. So we've got to go all the way here to the end and find tone 8. Okay. And then we have to decide what day of the week it is. So let's suppose that it's a Tuesday, for example. So Monday evening at Vespers, we're going to sing this Theotokon following the troparion. And the same Theotokon, Недвижимое утверждение веры, is going to be sung at Matins Tuesday morning, even if Matins is served Monday evening in parish practice. But at the end of Matins, a different Theotokon is used, and that's the one that's printed here at the end of Matins. Okay. On Wednesdays and Fridays, we use a Staro Theotokon, but unlike Appendix 2, the Staro Theotokon is printed here for you in Appendix 4. So it has the section for Tuesday evening and Wednesday at Goddess Lord and for Wednesday morning. And these texts are Staro Theotokia, although they're not labeled that way. And the reason that all of this is printed here together, unlike in Appendix 2, is because there is no idiomilan prosomian distinction for troparia. Okay, all troparia are just troparia. They're just sung to the troparian melodies, even if you do Znameni chant. Okay, so that's there for Appendix 4. So let's take a look at the English. Let's take a look at the English. Now the English, there's a slight complication that you're going to see in just a second. Here's the complication with the English. For reasons that I don't know and don't understand, the materials for Appendix 3 in the English are part of Appendix 1. I'll show you that in a second. And so this Appendix 4 of the Slavonic Manan is just Appendix 3 in the English. So that's really confusing. And so I will always just refer to it as Appendix 4. And you should just keep in mind that what is called Appendix 4 in the Slavonic is Appendix 3 in the English. So here it is labeled Dismissal Theotokos chanted throughout the year after the Tropar of the Saints. So this is the same thing. And if we go down here, I apologize for the quality. Again, if somebody can do a better scan of this, that would be great. Then we go down here for tone 8, and we were doing Tuesday, right? So Monday Vespers or Tuesday Matins is this Theotokon here. Oh, ye faithful, with hymns let us magnify the Theotokos. And it should be the same text as in the Slavonic Manan. And then Tuesday, it calls itself here Lauds. So Lauds is the end of Matins, right? So the one that's labeled for Lauds is the one that's done at the end of Matins. And the first one is done at Goddess the Lord. So that's Appendix 4. So the Theotokon out of Appendix 4 is going to be used for a simple service and for a 6-Tekira service. Once we go higher in rank to a doxology or to a polyeleos, we are going to use the festive Theotokon. So that's that Theotokon that is the resurrectional one that is used with Troparia for the Sunday services. And that Theotokon is printed for us in Appendix 3 of the Slavonic Manan. Okay? So let's suppose we want to take Saints Cosmas and Damien and upgrade them to a polyeleos. We don't have all the text we need. So we're going to go to the general Manan. We're going to supplement from the general Manan and add some more Stekira for the Apostica and a few other things. And then we have to bump the Theotokia, right? So if we're serving it as a polyeleos, then at Lord I've cried, we're going to need the dogmaticon and so forth. Well, at the dismissal of Vespers, we have to use the Theotokia now from tone 3, for the Appendix 3, in the tone of the Troparion. The tone of the Troparion was 8, so we're going to open up our Manan. We're going to open up our Manan, and we're going to go back up here to Appendix 3, which is labeled as the dismissal Theotokon, the resurrectional dismissal Theotokon, the 8 tones. And there's only 8 of them, one for each tone. And these are the same ones that are printed in the Oktoichos for Saturday evening Vespers following the Troparion of the Resurrection. And the one in tone 8's down here is in the It would behoove you. It will make your life much easier as a choir director and as a chanter and as a reader to get these memorized. There's only 8 of them. You really should memorize the 8 dogmatic Theotokia and memorize the 8 resurrectional Theotokia dismissal. That really just simplifies your life for you. So that's there for you in the Slavonic, Appendix 3. Now, in the English, remember, for reasons that I don't understand, I have to ask. Unfortunately, can't ask Father Joseph Lambertson anymore. There is no Appendix 3. Rather, the materials of Appendix 3 have been moved into Appendix 1. So if we go to Appendix 1, we've got the dogmaticon, the lesser Theotokens to the apostolic, and this dismissal Theotoken. And so this dismissal Theotoken is the Theotoken that you use at the dismissal following the Troparion of Vespers, and again at God is the Lord at Matins, and again at the dismissal of Matins. So for tone 8, it's this one here, O good one, who for our sake was born of the Virgin. Okay, and it's going to match this one. Okay, so we've worked out for you now the Tropari. So let's repeat what's going on with the Tropari. If we've got a simple service or a sexticera service, at the end of Vespers, at God as the Lord at Matins, and at the end of Matins, we sing the Troparion for the saint. Glory now, we sing the Theotoken. Theotoken comes from Appendix 4 in the Menaion. It's laid out there by tone, so we take the one in the tone of the Troparion, and by day of the week, so we have to know what day of the week we're using. And there are two of them. One is used at the end of Vespers and at the beginning of Matins for God is the Lord. One is used at the conclusion of Matins. Okay, so that's for a simple service and a sexticera service. For a doxology service or a Polyeleos rank service, we take the festive or resurrectional Theotoken that's printed in Appendix 3, the same one that's used on Sundays. And that same Theotoken will be used 3 times, once at the end of Vespers, once at the end of God is the Lord at the beginning of Matins, and once at the end of the Matins following the doxology. Now this is for the weekday services. There are exceptions to this if you serve, of course, for Sunday. You've already worked the Sunday case the previous week. And if you work for Saturdays, and Saturday services is a different and complicated thing that I would discuss in a different video, hopefully. So that's the Theotokia. Now, there aren't any real complications that arise here that should require you to search for something that isn't printed there. The only thing that sometimes happens is if you need a Theotoken for a sessional hymn. And that's why we've put together an appendix to Appendix 5 and 6, that booklet. But I'm not going to talk about that because that's a very rare situation. Okay. Let me finally just show you where also you can find these texts in addition to the appendix to the Menaion. In case you don't have a Menaion, or in case the edition of the Menaion that you have for whatever reason doesn't have the appendix, because there are some of the early editions of the Green Menaion were printed without the appendix. Another book in Slavonic that has all of these appendices is the Irmologion. The Irmologion is a very useful book for a variety of reasons. If you do a lot of daily services, you really come to appreciate the Irmologion. I mean, obviously the Irmologion first and foremost is a compendium of the Irmi. But in addition to Irmi, it's got all sorts of things in here that just come in handy every so often. And one of the things it has in here, if you can ever figure out how to navigate this book, okay, I mean, this book does not have a logical structure to it. Here we go. It's got the resurrectional Theotoken, the 8 tones. These are the dogmatic Theotoken, the primary Theotoken, and the lesser Theotoken. So this is equivalent to Appendix 1 in the Slavonic Menaion. Okay. Then it's got the Theotoken, the 8 tones that are sung when there's glory in the Menaion, in the tone of the doxasticon. This is equivalent to Appendix 2 in the Slavonic Menaion. Okay. It is equivalent to Appendix 2 in the Slavonic. And then in the back of the Irmologion, there's an appendix to the Irmologion. Oh, it's not in the scan. Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, you're just going to have to believe me then, because whoever scanned this particular edition didn't scan the appendix. Let me see if do I have a print Irmologion somewhere? Well, anyway, in the back of the Irmologion, there's an appendix to the Irmologion that's got the contents of Appendix 3 and Appendix 4 in the Menaion. So the Irmologian has those things for you. The other book that has these things in the Slavonic is the Chistoslov, the Orologian, which for some reason I don't have a scan. But in the back of the Orologian, it has the Bogorodichny Отпустительный Потопорем Sudim. This is Appendix 4. So the Orologian has also the same thing as Appendix 4 of the Menaion. And it's got as well in here a section that has the Troparia of Dismissal and Theotokia, Ipakoi, and Kandakia for Sundays. And in here is also printed the Theotokian for Appendix 3. So the Orologian has the contents of Appendix 3 and Appendix 4 for the Menaion. The Irmologian has the contents of Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. And in an appendix in the Irmologian, there's Appendix 3 and Appendix 4. Okay, so that's something you can use in case you ever, for some reason, don't have an appendix to the Menaion. Sometimes that happens on Kleros. In English, unfortunately, you're going to need the appendix. Now, if you do a lot of daily services, it may be helpful to photocopy the appendix out of the Menaion and bind it or laminate it as a separate little booklet so that you don't have to go flipping through the Menaion because it's kind of bulky, especially if you have only one copy of the Menaion. One of the advantages we have here in the Theological Academy is that we've got dozens and dozens of these in the library. So when we're in a choir, even with 20 people, everybody has their own Menaion that they're holding. But if you're in a choir of 20 people and you only have one set of these Menaea printed in your church, which is purchased in your church, which is probably the case because you probably don't have the finances to buy 20 sets at $1,200 a piece, then it might make sense to photocopy the appendices. Okay, so I think I have exhausted the topic of the appendices. I've talked about Appendix 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've talked about the supplement that we've made. So again, quick recap. 4 appendices in the Slavonic Menaion. Appendix 1 and 2 are used only for Stichira. Appendix 3 and 4 are used only for Troparia. Appendix 1 and Appendix 3 are the festive appendices that contain the Theotokia that you use for doxology and Polyleos. Appendices 2 and 4 are the weekday Theotokia that you use for simple services and the 6 Stichira services. The supplement that I showed you that contains what we've called Appendix 5 and 6 contains some additional Theotokia that are helpful if you do a lot of daily services. And I think that's about it. That's about it for Theotokia. It is a complicated topic, and really the only way that you learn this is you do a lot of daily services. And you know, if you're on Kleros every day for a couple of years, you'll get all this stuff figured out. In the homework, I ask you to work through a couple of examples where you figure out how to find the Theotokia. And of course, the most common mistake that people make when they're putting the homework together is to get the wrong Theotokia. Well, that's why we're here to learn. Okay. I mean, even on Kleros, people make this mistake. You know, I was at a seminary in Moscow, and I went to one of their services, and they sang the wrong Theotokian, and you know, what can I do? Don't sing the wrong Theotokian is the point of this lecture. Okay, thank you very much. I hope to get a couple more videos where I'll talk about some other complicated issues with daily services.